Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right, Vikings Vent Line every weekend here. We're getting closer and closer. It's the last weekend before the draft, so hit that like button and subscribe button. We're looking forward to hanging out with everyone at the Fillmore for the Purple Daily Draft Party. Again, limited tickets still available. ScoreNorth.com/draft to secure those tickets. A shout out to our friends at Standard Heating and Air, Roku, and 2 Men in a Truck, who also putting us on for the draft party. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be an absolute blast. Again, at the Fillmore, Minneapolis, whether you're local or you're driving up, flying up, we're looking forward to hanging out with all of you guys, so we can't wait for that. This is Vikings Vent Line, though, daily Vikings entertainment. If you want to be part of a show like this, if you want to recap the draft by this time next week, if you have takes on the offseason or the upcoming season for the Vikings, this is a place for you. Hit me up if you want to be on the show. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com, vikingsventline@gmail.com. We mentioned Standard Heating. They power Vikings Vent Line every Sunday here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel and podcast feed. Standard Heating and Air in the Twin Cities can help you with your HVAC and air conditioning needs. Hopefully, we got summer here around the corner, and with that air conditioner, got to make sure that that's working properly. Obviously, your HVAC and your furnace, all that stuff needs to be working as well, but they can take a look at that air conditioner too. So if anything's on the fritz, don't DIY that type of stuff. Go call our friends at Standard Heating and Air. Tell them that Purple Daily, that you heard us on Purple Daily. They love to hear that type of stuff. So shout out to Standard Heating for being a presenting sponsor here on Vikings Vent Line. Let's get our guys in here. Let's get Andrew and Zach, a couple of first timers here on Vikings Vent Line. Looking forward to talking to both of you guys. Andrew, you said you started listening last 4 years, right? Is that when you started listening to Purple Daily?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, very cool. And you kind of said it off mic, like, hey, I'm not really that much into podcasts, but this one, you're all in on. So I love to hear, at least we cracked the code. We get Purple Daily in Andrew's feed. I love that.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, there's not a whole lot of love with national media with Vikings, and a lot of their takes are just flat out terrible. And thankfully, there's channels like you and a couple others I listen to for my Vikings content. So, yeah.
Are you located in Minnesota, Andrew, or are you somewhere else?
I'm actually in Raleigh, North Carolina, but I did grow up in Minnesota almost my whole life. But the last 3 years I've lived down here.
Okay, nice. My brother lives in Cary. I love Triangle, love that area, man. It's a great area.
It is a great area.
Zach, you're on Vikings Vent Line too. This is your first time. You kind of only discovered us in the last year or two. What is your background as a Vikings fan, and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've been a Vikings fan pretty much my whole life. I think my dad was the big impact in getting me into the team. Going back to I want to say it was around 2003 when I was a little over 10 years old was my first time of becoming a diehard. And since then, I mean, I've watched every game. I grew up in Minnesota as well. I don't live there anymore right now, but big Midwest guy. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. But I've been a diehard fan for many years and had plenty of the heartbreak over the last few decades. So, yeah, glad to be on the show today.
Yeah, man, of course. Thanks for both you guys for coming on. I'm right around your age, probably, Zach, too. So 2000 was my first Vikings season, but 2003, 2004, that was when I was definitely a little bit more aware of what was going on and stuff. So, yes, some of those memories I think we're lockstep and in line with. Well, dudes, we do got the draft coming up. Andrew, I'll start with you here. Obviously, we love to get some hot takes throughout every week on Purple Daily, but what is your hottest draft take for the Vikings? What is the thing that you want to get off your chest, or a thing you really want to see the Vikings do in the draft this year?
All right, so obviously there's been a lot of talk about trade back or best player available. My hottest take is quality over quantity. We obviously only have 4 picks, and if we only make 4 picks, as long as those guys make the team, and are real contributors on the field, then that's actually a win for the draft. One thing that bothered me with Rick Spielman, the last half of his tenure with Mike Zimmer, is that he would constantly trade back all the time. He draft a bunch of late round picks that just simply did not make the roster. And I think you got to look for quality over quantity when it comes to this. That's just my view on it.
No, it's a good point because I'm guilty of this too, so I can't hide from it. But it feels like, hey, if you have as many cracks as you can with draft picks, like that's going to be better, right? Because you'll have the quantity at that point over
Right.
the quality. But at the end of the day, I mean, especially with some of the draft misses, like you brought up Spielman that has 4 7th-round picks every year, and Kwesi trades back all the time and really only has just a few draft picks that are quality players for the Vikings. So instead of that, how about you stick at BPA? And they've put themselves in a position, the Vikings have, where they get to take BPA, right? Like they've had some great free agent additions. We'll get into that in a bit, but they're in a good spot where they don't have to worry about, needing a center or needing a running back right away, and you have to reach for someone just because you have a need there. So I like that one. Quantity over or quality over quantity. Dig it. Zach, how about you, man? What is your hottest Vikings draft take?
Well, I thought about this one, and I wanted to go pretty aggressive. So my hottest draft take is that we should package 24 and Jordan Addison and get ourselves in the top 10 and snag Ashton Genty. Looking at where he would be on the board is probably going to be around like pick 6 or 7. So you probably need to get a deal done with the Raiders or the Jets. And I think Ashton Genty, looking at his tape coming out of college, this guy looks like an absolute game changer. I mean, we saw what happened now that we've sort of rebuilt our offensive line in that interior trenches, what the Eagles were able to do with Saquon. I think if we were able to get a guy like Genty on the squad, I think it opens up and takes a lot of pressure off of J.J. McCarthy in his first year and would give us a real threat in the run game to just pound it out with teams and be give us a real opportunity to really run the ball well between the numbers, between the tackles, and get a guy outside who can just bust the game wide open. And then obviously you're going to hit him deep with Justin Jefferson. So very spicy. I don't see us doing it, but I mean it would be an absolute blast to see us get a guy like that if we're able to.
Yeah, the Addison one's been thrown out from Judd and even some other listeners too that have joined Vent Line or on Write That Down. I mean, are you good then with also, because I don't know if it's just like a Addison pick swap, like probably also dipping into maybe next year's draft capital. Like,
yeah,
would you be okay with maybe even giving up like next year's first round pick for that, or is that like kind of too far for you? Where do you kind of stand on that?
I think it's very likely. It depends on what that other team is. Like if you're trading with like a team like maybe you could get them at like the Panthers, who really could use a legit number 1 receiver. Maybe they would value him high enough. You might, with the Jets trying to rebuild, you might have to give them a little bit more into 26. I think it would probably still be worth it. I know it's super aggressive, but I think this guy is like the next big running back coming out of college. You see his tape and how like low to the ground he is, how much tackles he can break, and you just heard him just recently making a comment about like he wants to be in a contender. He wants to compete and thinks that he can bring a Super Bowl to a team. I think you pair that with a young quarterback like J.J. McCarthy, and then obviously you got your weapon in Justin Jefferson. I think that would be a game changer. Obviously, if you got rid of Addison, you're going to probably need to look for another wide receiver too. Maybe a guy like Keenan Allen this year, or maybe try to make another trade for Adam Thielen. And then in 26, you're for sure going to have to replace have a long-term wide receiver option. But
so how do you feel? Let me ask you this, Zach. How do you feel about them getting Jordan Mason? Like, do you like the tandem there, or is it or with Aaron Jones too? Obviously, probably like in his last year of prime football, even if that might be a little bit of a stretch. What do you think of the Jordan Mason addition?
No, I really liked it. I mean, that's probably the big main reason we wouldn't see us make an aggressive move for like Genty, but I just wanted to throw out a wild one here. But yeah, I like Jordan Mason. That guy, obviously, he steamrolled us a bit in that game at the beginning of the season. I had him on my fantasy team, so I was a huge Mason believer all through. I was like, CMC, you can just chill for a minute. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do. And maybe he is a bit of a game changer for us. It'll be nice to have that 1-2 punch. Since Aaron Jones, great running back, but definitely got pretty wear and tear towards the end of the season. So it'll be nice to too.
Andrew, how about you though? I mean, are you good with the Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones kind of two-headed monster there, or is running back still a priority for the Vikings in this year's draft?
I mean, it is a priority, but not that much of a priority. It's more of like, I mean, it would be great to have Genty. I mean, I would love to have him on the team. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's like, Jordan Mason, I can like pound it, be physical inside the red zone, and obviously we'll get to say in a couple minutes, I'm sure, with the free agent additions. But I kind of just want to see us like get more guys like in the draft, like who are in the trenches, because you can never have too many good players in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and then you can just call whatever you want to call.
Totally. Yeah, offensive line, defensive line, and they've made some additions here, which are nice, and it's a good segue. But as much as the additions are, they could still use some long-term depth or long-term longevity at some of those positions. Well, who has been your favorite addition, though, Andrew, to the Vikings free agent offseason so far? Which free agent have you really liked that has stood out to you?
Both the offensive linemen on the interior. I mean, I want some bullies in on the offensive line, like actual bullies. It's just. I mean, I can't even remember the last time we had like an all-pro interior offensive lineman. Was it like John Sullivan, like the last one?
Sullivan, or like maybe even Hutch, like Steve Hutchinson back.
Yeah, that guy too.
Probably one of those two. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been forever since we've been stout on the interior line. I think that's why we get blown out in the playoffs, because you're playing against good teams and they have good lines. So, it's invest in the trenches. That's all I would say. And those are my two favorite additions in the offseason.
Absolutely.
Kelly and Fries.
Totally. Zach, how about you? Who have been your favorite additions to the offseason so far?
Well, I was going to take Kelly and Fries, but my secondary one has got to be the two guys on the defensive line, Hargraves and Jonathan Allen. I mean, obviously we know it's some recent injury history. Hopefully they can stay healthy, but being able to sub those guys out and try to get some interior pressure, I think will make a huge change to this defense. I mean, we saw how much getting that pressure up the middle can impact us, last year towards the end of the season. So if we're able to do that to teams, I mean, I think that's just going to really help our defensive backs a whole lot. Maybe take a little bit of pressure off of Flores having to blitz so many guys to generate that interior pressure. But I definitely got to go Allen and Hargraves. Those guys, I hope, are just going to be game wreckers at times throughout the season.
How do you feel, Zach? How do you feel about the cornerbacks situation? Like, again, this might be answered in the draft, but it on paper last year was really weak, and I actually think it probably even outperformed what we thought. I thought it was going to be a bigger weakness than it was. What did you think? What do you think about the cornerback situation for the Vikings, though, going into 2025?
I mean, I think it's definitely improved. I mean, obviously, at the beginning of last season, we were not feeling super good, and then we saw guys going down like flies, and it was like, oh no, this is a nightmare. And it ended up not being really all that bad. So I think looking at it this year, I really am intrigued by that Isaiah Rodgers pickup, hearing how much Kevin O'Connell and Flores seem to like the kid and think that he can really take a big step up. And obviously, I think we really got to trust. We've been able to trust them because the additions that they've been making in the free agency market has really paid off on some young guys that maybe haven't had the background of being elite, but are maybe could be big contributors for us. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, but I'm definitely intrigued at the whole Asante Samuel Jr. bet. If that's coming true, I think that could take us over the top as well. Because we really do need some young guys in there, some youth to really shake things up and be competitive next season and into 26, 27.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, if Asante Samuel Jr. is indeed coming here, which the Purple Daily Anonymous tip line's been on fire about, I mean, that changes a lot of things too, right? I mean, that's just another great piece for the Vikings in that room.
I mean, it certainly does not put as much pressure, especially to draft a cornerback in the high rounds or something like that. If they can get him on the team, that would be great. I actually am pretty high on Mekhi Blackman. I think he's got a big upside, but hopefully that ACL injury he suffered last year in training camp did not send him back too far. But I don't think cornerback depth is a little bit of a concern also, but I'm not on the top of my list.
Yeah, I mean, if they're pass rushers, if Grenard and Van Ginkel and hopefully Dallas Turner are able to get after the quarterback, then I'm not saying you don't need slappies at the position, but if they're getting after the quarterback, then your corners don't have to be exposed as much. So they're all good things. Excited for the draft. I think their offseason's been fun, and hopefully we'll see how it shakes out after next weekend. And maybe Asante Samuel Jr. is also a part of that, which is cool. Zach, I know you said 2003 was when you kind of remember stuff, but what was kind of like your first Vikings memory? What do you remember about that season, or what do you remember even before that? What was your kind of first core Vikings memory?
Yeah, so mine's a disappointing one in the 2003 season, and I think we might know where this is headed, but it was the Arizona game, the force out rule. I mean, as a kid, I didn't know how that rule worked or what it meant. But at the time, you see a guy come down and get pushed out of bounds in the end zone, all of a sudden the game is over. So mine is definitely the heartbreak. You start out 6-0, you got Culpepper and Moss going off all season, and then things kind of taper off, and at the end, we end up not in the playoffs. I still see that play posted on like Instagram every now and again, and it just brings up sad memories. But I feel like that's been a theme of us fans. Obviously, we've got plenty of heartbreak in the postseason and missing the postseason, but it's got to be that Arizona force-out rule at the end.
I remember that vividly too. And same thing, I definitely remember being a little confused. And I remember my dad being beside himself because he was like aware of the rule and aware of and the frustration and the meltdown and everything that went into that. I mean, that was a 6-0 team that looked awesome to start the year, and then they missed the playoffs from Josh McCown, by the way, who ended up who's now on the staff and had honestly a very long and successful career. But like I think everyone kind of forgets, like he was the quarterback and the one that threw that ball to Nate Poole, which is super funny. Andrew, how about you though? What was your kind of first core Vikings memory?
Well, it's a mixture between like a heartbreak and also a great memory. So I guess my favorite memory of being a Viking fan was that 2009 season where we played against the Cowboys in the playoffs and absolutely smoked them. And, there were a few Cowboy fans sitting behind us. And I remember my father getting into a big trash talking against one of them, and they just wouldn't stop going back and forth or whatever. I was only like a junior in high school back then. And then obviously the next week, which we don't like to talk about, the heartbreak against the Saints. We had them on the ropes and, throw across the body. That's like the most memorable thing I have with my Vikings. But sadly.
That was, and everyone else, I know most of everyone, whether you're someone like our ages who are probably in their late 20s, early 30s, or obviously generations after us, and now I guess new generation, because like they probably remember 2017 if they're now in their high school years and teen years. Everyone has the one that really sticks out. But I remember, that Favre one, I watched it happen, and then that overtime, it was like I was in a trance. I don't think I said anything. I was just in shock the entire time. And then I just walked home quiet and didn't say a word for the rest. I think I went straight to bed. It was a late game. I remember I was at a neighbor's house. I went straight to bed and just accepted the fate that I think that was the best chance I've ever seen the Vikings have at a Super Bowl, and they've absolutely bleeped it away. So brutal, absolutely brutal sometimes being a Vikings fan. Hopefully McCarthy
they would have beaten the Colts that year. I mean,
it would have happened.
They would have beaten the Colts. That's just
let's not get fired up, right? Let's not get too worked up. All right, we got a new era, new quarterback, new coach. Draft is coming up. Only positive things going forward here.
I'm excited for the next week. Yeah, it's going to be a great feeling next Thursday, come draft day.
Before we wrap, Zach, any last takes, any last shout outs here on Vikings Vent Line?
For shout outs, definitely got to shout out my father for getting me into the game, forcing me to go and play some Pee Wee football, get me into the Vikings. I mean, sort of a shout out also bringing me into a life of eternal sadness to this point. But I mean, he's the one that got me into it. So definitely got to shout him out. Got to shout out my wife for putting up with all of my constant Vikings content with Purple Daily and, all the Vikings related shows out there. There is no off season to this. In fact, the off season almost became my favorite part of the season now, and engaging with it all. And she kind of puts up with it all the time and understands the pain that goes along with it. So yeah, that's my shout outs.
Love it. Andrew, how about you, man? Any last takes, any shout outs here on Vikings Vent Line for you?
Well, I have to shout out to my father as well, because he took me to a bunch of Vikings games growing up. Got me into it right away at a young age. And also, same with my brother. And nowadays, during the season and also the off season, we obviously group text and we definitely have some disagreements, but I love it when we all go back and forth with one another and just say, I was right, you were wrong, and it's just awesome. The great memories and also the heartbreaks come along with it.
It's a family affair, whether it's your wife trying to understand, football season's only 3 months. How are you still doing this for 9 extra months? This is actually a lot more fun at times than the regular season, babe. This is all great.
It can be.
Oh my God. Well, hey fellas, Andrew, Zach, great stuff here on Vikings Vent Line. Appreciate you guys slinging some takes here. And again, anyone wants to be on an episode after the draft, after the offseason, we still got plenty of Vikings Vent Line episodes to pump out. So if you'd like to be on a future episode, you can hit me up. It's vikingsventline@gmail.com. Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment. We just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die.